Hi guys. Sorry I couldn't be there right now to attend this St. John Ideas Forum 2025, but I'm currently in Toronto, Canada, attending the Caribbean Canada Leaders Dialogue. I really wanted to be there to be able to submit some decent ideas on what I may think is decent ideas. So I'm sending this video and hopefully you guys get to hear it. For those who don't know me, my name is Myrico Morris. I am the president of the Belgian Baffland Community Group, an executive member of the District Emergency Organization, and I am also the manager for St. John Sonics basketball team. This Ideas Forum gives us, all of us in St. John, a platform to be able to sit and discuss any ideas we have for the betterment of St. John. And you know that this is where I sit. This is where I believe in. I believe in people. I believe in community empowerment, and I believe in people empowerment. So I'm asking each and every one of you to come forward and put your ideas up there that we can make St. John better for each and every one of us. So my first idea is develop Concept Bay. Develop Concept Bay into a hub for not just fishing, but also for skills such as boat building, which we have in the communities, and is also a dying art within St. John. There are also persons within St. John that still know how to do net making. This is a skill that we missed a very good opportunity to be able to hone and teach the future generations as we continue to lose some of our stalwarts in the fishing industry. I believe that Concept Bay can be developed to be a hub similar to Oystins, and we can, as we are now in the month of May, looking at the regathering for St. John, continue next year and create the St. John Community Festival, which will be able to highlight a lot of the pieces of St. John which people usually miss. Concept Bay is one of those places that can become a hub for some niche markets, as there are fishermen, fisher folk, young people throughout St. John, especially on this coastal community, that can sit and develop businesses that can thrive at Concept Bay as the hub for this, bringing also in tourist attraction, tourist dollars, where this niche market of octopus, as we know they call it sea cat, sea eggs, through regulation, and some of the more interesting delicacies like Barbadian lobsters. They got Bajan lobsters, really. And they're really good. Guys in my community usually like them. But we can be able to develop these industries a little further in the development of Concept Bay, and let that be a hub not just for St. John, but for the entire eastern coast. Another idea would be to form a St. John Community Co-op, which would be able to help a lot of these small businesses, a lot of these small business owners, a lot of these young people to develop the skills and get the infrastructure necessary to be able to get their businesses where they want to get them. They will have the information, they will have all of the transactional equipment that they will need to be able to create some wealth and economic growth for themselves, and then be able to export their product. That can be built out into some serious commerce. I also believe that the St. John Polyclinic is a place that can have a lot more activity. And I believe, as a very rural country, sometimes we get annoyed with hearing that there's no ambulance available. I believe we can go forward with having an outpost for the ambulance service at the St. John Polyclinic that can be able to not just service St. John, but also service the eastern district of the island, reducing the time and the wait time it will take for persons to be able to get that care that is absolutely necessary, that emergency care, from St. John straight to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. That is one of the things that I believe we can always build out when it comes to the St. John Polyclinic. As you would have heard me talk about before, I do believe that the St. John District Emergency Organization can also build capacity by being a part of the Give Back program, which is used at the University of the West Indies. And I will put forward again that idea to be one that would strengthen our resilience, so that when we do have another barrel, we can be able to know that our fishing industry is safe, because we have persons who are trained in community resilience and response. Then we also have persons who will now have boats and be a part of the boat building. We will have persons who can be able to sustain themselves, and then we can look into creating mechanisms that will be able to put people in position and give them the skills to create what I like to call mini grids. For electrical installation, they will have the certificates that they will necessarily need to be able to create those mini grids so that in the event we have another ELSA where we had power loss for 3 weeks, we would have power generated.
Well, you know, I come in St. John living now, it's over 12 years, right? But I live in Henley, but Fort Road here, to me, Fort Road is the capital of St. John. All Fort Road I just brighten up with a few buildings around the place. Where's the fire station, the post office here? Put a bank or something in the area. A good supermarket, put some buildings around your shopping center and wherever around the area. And this area can be good. Woodwoods is a good area. Now keep picnics and things, now it clean up. And they got it now to be a park. It's a good area to keep picnic and whatnot. All you want to put some lights and whatnot in the side there. And keep around the area, clean a good car park, whatever. Brighten up around the area with the house and area that they got planned to go there, short there. And everything can be good, man. Street area, you got pool there. You surround the area here with the Harbour. Capital of St. John. Got some shows and things, and everything will be good, man. Bring out the people in the area. It's a good area, man.
My name is Peter Walker. I'm from the parish of St. John, right here in Fort Roads. All they saying that we should have a water park down below Fort Woods, or somewhere in St. John so that the young people could go and play, etc. Hold the picnics and stuff like that, like anywhere down St. Peter, anywhere all about. For my water park, Concept Bay should not be only about fishing. Concept Bay is a place that you should be able to go like oysters and other places to enjoy yourself, not just only to go and buy fish. Should more activities at Concept Bay. And simple as 1, 2, 3.
Hey, I'm Michael Anderson Richards. I'm an entrepreneur, a plumber by profession, and I focus on entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the key to acceleration to good health, meaning consuming foods that actually are organic, because much stuff ain't really healthy. Well, something's got challenges within being an entrepreneur, but it's things, it's ideas go create to go wrong about it. Like if you get a challenge now with probably like vegetation, you could flip on poultry. So just got patience and be persistent, and that's the key. If them had more like lease land and you could create like the poultry and exercise what you manifest, but you got the community governed with the fact you won't go like go a town, you could shop with entrepreneurs, with the kind of farming, with me vegetation, or kind of poultry, you won't go venture in other places, you will keep the money in the community and build more unity and be sturdy. This couple of years I lived out here, but I was always a St. John individual. But here don't really got a lot of activities, true, because in the park, no really got a lot of activities, no tennis, no football, most of them activities we don't go out. So if you could draw some non-curriculum activities out here like a park, or you could find an area to go a pass that you could utilize other than being don't go out, you know what I mean? That you could got like small events which is within the community, because let's go here's Collington and Cleveland, so that'd be a good catch. Probably like a park or saying I bring the youths and got the youths more comfortable within themselves. That'd be a good idea to start. I can't pinpoint the terrains, but they have terrains in St. John that could be utilized for other lease land, and that'd be a good idea. You understand? Even the community centers start by the program, like exercising skill, like hospitality and them sort of stuff. But even if they got an institution other than Dungar Hill, and that'd be more better. If it up here or more further, so other individuals could gather the skill and manifest it. To create back the curriculum activity, which is tennis, road tennis, I figure some road humps supposed to be through the gap, and to bring back the unity because as the traffic slow down, you could create other activities like hopscotch and Chinese skip or whatever you might come back up with that you don't ain't accustomed with. You could bring that back to the community because you could have got more control of the speed with the traffic that you could create different activities and that would be a good thing.
My name is Rudy, right? Concept, St. John fisherman, captain too. Let's carry a boat. Okay? What happened in St. John now, everybody associate with one another, right? When it comes to togetherness, yeah, concept is it. Cause if people here stand around with your boat, brother, everybody coming out. Ain't no one body. Everybody coming out. Enough old heads pass on, and enough young heads gonna carry on. The community, right, is a great community cause, as I told earlier, everybody's come together, right? Any people here like, yeah, you walk part way and come shore, right? Everybody gonna come out farm to help you. I mean, like, even if me and you don't agree on, brother, you gonna come out, I gonna come out and make sure that your boat secure, you bomb, you even if you get injuries on your boat, right? Still wanna make sure that don't many injuries, it's still secure that you could get that solved and get back in water to make a dollar to support your family. Cause that's all about it, what it is about. Supporting the community and your family. Should have more fishing tours came from concept be due to the fact, right? I as a person, as a boat captain, I do work for people from UE studying. When a year come, I get work from UE. Coming to check the sargassum seaweed. Okay? Out and in. So they should have more fishing tours. Right now, I got a partner of mine that is people that's coming and he's gonna carry them out on tours just to dive to see sharks. All kind of different species, brother. So they should have more things going on at concept. Boat building, you see that partner? There much people know that is the one man that I know. For sure. Terry Downs, call could call his name too. Terry Downs from back north, down in Bathsheba side, right? And he's also a boat owner and a fisherman. It's like there ain't much boat builders right now called it's mostly like everybody want fiberglass boat. Which in long term, easier to maintain, right? What boats now, since that's a barrel, the last hurricane that we had that mashed everything in the complex, there's gonna be much more boat building from there, brother. I believe what I tell you. Fiberglass from there, that's what's going on right now. All the rest of the boats that gonna come from here right now is fiberglass. Because as I tell right, the same people that doing the boat building, which is boats, got enough work going on. Still have the own boat to carry out, cause them is fish when the year come. Then that is a man that is built, repair your boats a certain time of year, but when he get to he time now, he going fishing cause he love it. So it just goes to see how much people love fishing. You understand? Is a real life. When you get it, you want it every day. 7 days a week, unless the sea is bad. See, once the sea good, you're addicted, bro. Believe what I tell you. And take a sip of water upon that one. Up. Yeah. Once you love fishing, there ain't nothing else better than it, bro.
Thank you. So now I'll turn you over for the time being to Alex Downs, the host for the evening. He will introduce the speakers or invite the speakers, and then we'll go from there. Once the Prime Minister, I get notice the Prime Minister is coming, I'll alert you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roy, and good night to everyone in residence of St. John. Roy, I know I'm here by myself, but I would note the theme for we gathering is community. So for tonight, at least, I feel like one of you. But feeling like that, I still need to hear from you, you know, what your ideas, what your thoughts are for the parish, how you can improve it. And so I'm going to ask the speakers as you come, you can make your way just around the tent. There's a microphone just standing here at the top for you. The first speaker I'm going to ask is Jemia. You can come on up, thank you.
Good night, everyone. My name is Jemiah Mears, and I am from Cleveland. I have a few ideas, but I am going to try to get over them as quickly as possible. Good night, everyone. Okay, so my first idea that I have is a brother and sister program, and it would be a community-based mentorship program which focuses on positive peer influence and support. So I think that we could have some after-school lessons at the community center, provide homework help as well, and tutoring for the students. As well as the brother and sister program, it can focus on the sports and activities. So if you need help with cricket, football, and whatnot, you can go to your older brother or sister and they'll be able to assist you with that. Secondly, I have a community mural project. As you would have seen yesterday, there was the unveiling of the wall over here. I think that it could be a great idea for the community artists to get involved and chip in and help finish painting the wall. I think we could also incorporate the different schools in St. John as well, the law school. We have the art students there, primary schools, even the persons in the community of St. John's, as simple as a thumbprint. For example, if we are doing trees on the wall, a thumbprint could be the leaf. And I think that would enforce unity and togetherness as St. John people. Thirdly, I think that we can refurbish the old polyclinic. I'm not sure if there's any idea of refurbishing it as yet, but I think that we could probably refurbish it and put it into a arts and cultural center to embrace the artists in St. John again and enforce that cultural awareness as well. We can have corners where you could have the story reading and encourage the students who are interested in drama, dance, creative arts to come and partake in these different activities as well. I also think we should have a one-on-one community literacy program. We could call it Back to the Basics, where you have programs with CV writing clinics, where volunteers and professionals will come in and help individuals with their job applications, CV preps, or even interviews to see how that can be prepared for their interviews. We could also have financial literacy sessions where you could teach budgeting, saving, and understanding how to pay your bills. We could also have computer literacy. It could be showing you how to use Microsoft Word, sending emails, or doing online forms as well. And I also think that we could have branding and social media classes for the entrepreneurs here in St. John. Some of them might not know how to brand their business properly, and I think that would be an asset to them as well. I also think that we could have a community street fair or something like that in St. John where the different entrepreneurs again come out and they have their stalls, they set up, and everyone can network and purchase items from each other. I also have a question. I wanted to know where we can find out more about community projects that are currently happening in Barbados and where we could learn more about them if anyone would be able to assist me with that.
Hi, good evening. Charles Griffith, the MP for the constituency of St. John. Your last question is easy for me to answer. My ministry would provide all of the information that you would require in relation to youth and community groups. So these are things that are readily available at the Ministry of Youth. If I may respond to some of your submissions as well, the old polyclinic, plans are in train to develop that into a vendor's mall. It should carry about 12 shops. And I already have one businessman who's interested in taking the facility at the front. Drawings are already in place. Drawings are already approved for this. We're just waiting to make sure that we have the drainage problem sorted, because those of you who are familiar with the old polyclinic know that heavy rain used to cause some major flooding inside of the area. Earlier, Mariko would have mentioned the Concept Bay, and I know that Minister Ford, drawings are already prepared to enhance what is at Concept Bay. We have all been asked to submit vendors' locations in our constituency. Concept Bay, the area just below here that is known as the zone, is another one that has been identified to do vending. Earlier, the chap mentioned Four Roads. That is also another location. So a number of the ideas that are coming, plans are in train to deal exactly with those things. But I thank you for the question.
No problem. Thank you as well.
Jemiah, just before you go, the ideas forums, what we've essentially done is allow the ideas, yes, to come from the speakers, but again, if anyone in the audience, you hear something that prompts your idea or thought in your mind, you can feel free to share at the back. But then to the speakers as well, I just want to ask a question, because you've mentioned a number of ideas that deal with community engagement and also the nexus with young people. And I just want to find out from you, as a young person yourself in St. John, if there was that one idea or a solution to an issue that you think would perhaps move the needle the most, what would that be?
I think a little more togetherness in the community, because yes, yes, we are together as a community, but sometimes you may not see persons, I would say, like together a lot. So I think we can, the entrepreneur street fair kind of solution can bring persons together even more as a community in St. John.
Okay, I appreciate your answer as well, Jemiah, and I got your name correct this time, so thank you very much. So we just have a round of applause for Jemiah. Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to move on to our next speaker. I have Edward Ince. Edward? I see you. I don't think you necessarily. He's following, so you can feel free to share as well.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
When you could tell somebody's age when they use a phone or use a piece of paper. My name is Edward Ince. I'm from St. John, and I have a business in St. John. Firstly, I would just like to thank the Minister Griffith and the MP for St. John for being a good listener and a good representative. And also the Minister of Agriculture, who has a big interest in St. John, Minister Ware. I have two submissions tonight. The first one is, I think we need to do more to generate more economic activity in St. John. We don't have enough businesses in St. John. A lot of people that live in St. John leave St. John on a day and travel all over Barbados to work, sometimes as far as Speightstown. And I think if there were more businesses in St. John, it would help that whole logistics of travel. But I think we have to do more for ourselves, and certainly the business community, of which I'm part of in St. John, needs to come together more and look at more partnerships and bring more business to St. John. There are a lot of small entrepreneurs that are very good business people. You have Adrian Riley from Edgecliff, is one of the best fence men in Barbados. You have Ian Beckles from Rosegate, who is a good truck man. If you need a truck man, he's a good infrastructural truck man. You have Uplands Trading, you have Chickmont, you have Pravana Energy, Cloud Solar, Shelbury Construction, Guinea, you have Mr. Woods Hardware in Cherry Grove. You have the Water Authority, you have all the medical centers, the mini marts. But we could do more. We have a brand new, very high-tech greenhouse starting down at Guinea soon. Our overseas rum company has put in a lot of money into Kendall, so there's a lot of economic activity happening in St. John. I have two young gentlemen here with me that are in the process of starting a rum distillery at Guinea, and investing a lot of their time and energy into creating a rum brand in St. John. We have wedding venues. We have the best ham cutters in Barbados at Miss Ford's shop there, down just below Lodge School. So we have a lot of good businesses, but we need to find more businesses come into St. John, generate more economic activity. I took a farm that was inactive, and we now have just under 20 people working there. That's in the last 5 years. So a lot more can be done, but I think we have to be careful that we just don't sit down and wait on government to do things for us. I think we have to see what we can do for St. John. I have here, I'm going to give it to Mr. Morris. I bought it for the Prime Minister because I know with yellow meats in her constituency, she's partial to breadfruit. But this is a young person. I can't claim it because it's in St. Philip. But it is breadfruit chips called Ulu. And it's a little dear, but it tastes very good. And she and a farmer, Richard Armstrong from Colleton, have done a real good job at creating this package. I can give it to Mr. Morris. But it is now in a lot of the Massey stores, and these are breadfruits grown all over Barbados. And we're trying to grow more. We're going to actually have to import some to supplement the demand for the breadfruits between the various uses of breadfruits. But that is a good example. I think in St. John we can do more on the agro-processing side, the agro-industrial side, not just being producers of farm goods, but actually what do we do with the coconuts rather than just selling the coconuts in terms of coconut water. What we can do there with the breadfruit, making breadfruit chips. Those are now in 2 large outlets in the USA, one starting in Europe, in the UK, and if you go to Massey, and most of these stores are there, and it is a good product, started as almost as a cottage industry and has grown up, and it could be something quite large. So, Minister Griffith, we speak a lot, and I think how do we mobilize and bring the business community together, not only the larger businesses, but the smaller businesses, So that is one. The rum project, I think, has a lot of legs. And if we can get that distillery moving with the permissions and so on, I think it will add a lot to the economic activity of St. John. The second one is most of us now get paid electronically. Most of banking is done. You don't get cash. You get money goes in your account. Somebody sends you money. You use your card somewhere. And the reality is in St. John, we have no bank branch. Emerson Baskin was remind me the Barclays branch there in Four Roads. I had one teller, I think, years ago. Probably a lot of us are too young to remember that. I remember it. But We have no bank branches, no credit unions, and one ATM in the whole of St. John. So if you live in Rosegate or live in Society or live down the hill by Codrington College and you need cash, you either got to go to 6 roads or you got to go to 4 roads. And certainly for my staff, who I pay electronically, the disruption to them and the business, somebody has to drop you to 4 roads, take you to 6 roads. It can take 2 or 3 hours sometimes. And I think we need more ATMs in St. John. And I have been talking to a couple of the banks about finding maybe some low-cost ATMs to put into some of the retail establishments. Certainly the one is needed in the Rosegate area. I think one down by Codrington College, and maybe other places, Edgecliff. But we need more access to these types of facilities, and it may require the banks helping a bit. It may require, I mean, I certainly as a business, there's a cost to me for my staff to take 2 or 3 hours on a day to go and get cash. So I've discussed with the banks, maybe the businesses contributing towards the operating costs of the ATMs, because reality is they may not want to put it here because it doesn't have enough transactions to pay for itself. So I think if we can get more ATMs in, and Minister Griffith, I took this on as a personal project. I spoke to 2 of the banks. They were a little reluctant, but I think if we give them a little nudge, left and center and right, they might move, you know. And so that is another thing. I feel within the next 6 to 8 months, you know, we should be aiming to have 3 or 4 more ATMs. I can't guarantee a branch, but 3 or 4 more ATMs. I mean, maybe one day we would get a Chefette. You know, if you get a Chefette as a parish, you feel as though you reach, you know. Maybe one day we will get a Chefette. So those are my contributions. It's quite simple. I'm a simple small business person, and I try to focus on getting things done. And I think those are a couple of ideas I would like to contribute.
Mr. Ince, don't move yet. Just like Alex said, part of the setup here is we like to engage, allow the audience to engage with you, and we will do so ourselves as well. The first one has to do with your last idea in terms of ATM. And the question for me would be whether or not, and I don't know if you can answer it, but we have some smart young minds in here. They're not from St. John, but they're here for another reason. And the question is whether or not we need more ATMs, or whether or not, since we are moving toward cashless transactions, if that is not what we need to perhaps focus more on rather than getting an ATM. Because, you know, I've done a little bit of traveling, and you'd be shocked. You travel Nigeria and other parts of Africa, and you want a pound of carrots, there's no cash. You want to buy the simplest thing, no cash. There's not even a card. You use your phone for almost every transaction. You want to travel by bus or informal transport, again, it's the same method. So the answer may not necessarily be in trying to convince the bank to set up an ATM for 10 transactions a day, but in order to get more people to do a lot more of the cashless banking, because it really is a lot more convenient.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Certainly, if you know, some of these stores, certainly you can, when you go in the hardware store in Cherry Grove, you can use a card. And I think more and more establishment taking cards would help. But I think some of those ideas are good, but will take longer to implement. And I still feel by the time they get rolling around, I will have my ATM in place.
No, fair enough.
And doing it in parallel. But I think you're right. I mean, I like to use my cell phone to transfer money. I like to use my cards, but I still carry some cash and a check in my wallet in case I run in trouble, you know. So
understood. The second thing I wanted to raise with you is perhaps closer to where you operate, which is agriculture. Only this morning I was having a conversation with a major farmer, and he was of the view that scale is our biggest problem. He pointed out, you know, we are trying to do farming, crop production. And the last time he looked, his competitor in Toronto was operating the same kind of vegetable farm, but his farm was the size of Barbados, while here he's trying to compete with his products on an acre. You talked about your success. How do you, or what advice do you give to other people who are trying to get going in agriculture? How do you turn the disadvantages of scale, of size, into something that works for you? How do you deal with it? How do you take a struggling business into something that's
I
viable?
don't know if it's success. Every day I feel headwinds. I mean, I was going to raise the issue of crop theft, but I didn't really. I mean, that is a real tough problem. Mm-hmm. And when you see a farmer, up to last night, this morning, I saw a farmer lose 30 head of planting, and there's no worse depressing look in the world than seeing a man lose something that he nurtured. So that is a big problem. In terms of scale, I think we can get through. I mean, water, weeds, one is your helper, one is your enemy, And I think the reality is we don't have scale. Right. I think we have to work with what we have. I mean, the largest lettuce producer in Barbados, we had a claim, I guess maybe 50% of St. John, because he's in Sweet Vale, just on the border of St. George. And so we claim half the lettuce. But, I mean, they get through. They use greenhouses. They use a combination of outdoor farming. And they provide maybe 40% of the lettuce in Barbados. And they get by. So I think you got to work within what you can do. You focus, hard work. I mean, the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's the truth, But farming is a very difficult activity, and I think part of the you have to. The reliance solely on farming is tricky. One of the things that helped us was we put in some solar energy, and that the combination of the two has helped in terms of just flattening out the volatility, So. But I think we can get through. I think there are some very, very, very good vegetable farmers in Barbados. Breadfruits, I think coconuts. There's a lot of coconut growing going on.
How do you handle breadfruit and coconut? To use your two examples, when you have plants that take years before they mature. If I wanted to get into coconut farming now, I can plant, but I will not reap a single coconut for what, 5 years?
I think by year 3, with the right amount of focus, and I think by year 3. But yes, the reality is by year 5. So it is a long-term play.
Right.
It is a long-term play, and I think the other thing is you have to focus on particular types. Reality is you don't want in 10 years having to climb 60 feet up a tree to get coconut. So I think you have to look at the type of coconut as well.
Research and development.
Well, the ministry is very good at that. They will get you planting material, they get you contacts and things like that. The ministry is very, very good. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, most definitely it helps.
Eat the breadfruit.
Thank you very much, Edward. I really commend you for some of the thoughts and the ideas you've shared, both in relation to agriculture and agro-processing. But not only that, the concept of something like an ATM, something that we may take for granted, when we go down south or to the West Coast. But I think that can be a major impact here in St. John as well. So thank you again for that. I'd like to move on to Mr. Michael Greenidge.
Good night to the minister. Good night to all within my hearing. I'm going to be short and a little different. I come from Levels Road, Versailles Street, St. John. There is a 4-cross in that area. And over the last, I've looked into this, and over the last 33 years, there have been 7 fatal accidents, not to mention the many multiple serious accidents and near misses at that 4-cross. I am asking that the minister take a serious look at either making it a four-way stop or there's room where it can be turned into a roundabout. But in addition, there was a gentleman living right next to that junction by the name of Anthony Bob Waldron. And I would humbly suggest that that junction, whether it be a roundabout or four-way stop, be renamed the Anthony Waldron Roundabout or Junction in honor of the gentleman. I would also remind Mr. Griffith that I had asked him already twice to give the children going to law school a sidewalk between 8 a.m. No, between 7:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. That road is horrendously busy. Got the law school with 1,200 children and at least 800 going to school by car and bus. We got the university at the top of the hill. Then we have Codrington High School that use the big luxury buses. And I see those first farmers who have not learned the car roads yet, dodging traffic daily. And it's only a matter of time before somebody gets hurt. I am certain the minister will remember me saying this before. Please try to get a sidewalk on whichever side of the road to get those kids out of the path of the vehicular traffic on mornings. It is any driver in this audience who has ever traveled that road between 7:30 and 9 on mornings would realize how horrendous that road is when it comes to vehicular traffic versus pedestrian traffic. And we have to take care of our young people. That is my contribution for this evening.
Thank you, Mike. I agree with you 100% in relation to the corner at Messiah Street. When I was at MTW, I took a team to the location because of the same thing that you identified, the problems that we are having in relation to that junction, because a number of drivers who are not familiar coming from Guinea could just drive straight across the road. I love the idea that you mentioned in relation to the sidewalk as well. I think it is very, very necessary to put one in. So, I mean, all of this information is being captured, but yes, I agree with you. In terms of honoring Mr. Waldron, only here yesterday, if you go on the wall, you will realize that
I wanted to suggest that his name should also be on the wall.
His name is on the wall, Brad.
I didn't check the wall, but I wanted to say this.
But I take your concerns in relation to the junction and the sidewalk. I have a similar issue at Monkturb as well, coming from 4 Road, so I'll get MTW to look at it. Thank you.
But Mr. Minister, do me a favor. Just go to the area, let's say 8:45 in the morning, and see what it is like on that road, especially for the first farmers going to lodge who have not learned to navigate the cart roads as yet, and see what it's like.
I'm familiar with the area, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greenwich. All right, so we're going to change focus for a moment right now. And at these Ideas Forum, since we started in January in St. Lucie, we've been introducing some national initiatives centered mainly on modernizing the approach of delivery of services by government to citizens. One of these initiatives we've been working quietly on in the well, not so quietly, at least the developers don't think I'm quiet about it, in the Prime Minister's office, because we recognize that one of the challenges we've faced has been in the reporting and following up of complaints, challenges, whatever the case may be. And this is across the public service. our colleagues from the Water Authority are here. They know how the number of complaints that they have to deal with relating to water, to water loss, to road reinstatement. We have colleagues from agriculture. We know what the challenges and whether it is land lease projects or whatever the case may be, there are always issues to be dealt with. And one of the challenges has been the way citizens are able to report them, and also the way the arms of government respond to them. So we've been working on an app that is going to make reporting of challenges across the public service a simple and straightforward matter, and then allow the follow-up to be just as straightforward for your own continued involvement as the persons who make the reports, and also for other members of the public to see how the government responds to complaints or challenges that don't necessarily relate to them specifically, but they're interested in the quality of government service. So you would have, all of you, if you're Bajan or you have a Bajan connection, should be familiar with the name Pearly. If you have a neighbor who minds everybody's business, she's Pearly. Well, our app is Pearly.
But you know you can report that right now, you know.
Report it to who?
But you don't hear about the app, Pearly?
No.
Yes, I got app there, Pearly. Let me show you.
Well, I ain't so tech savvy.
It's real simple. All you got to do is download it, sign up using your phone number or your email. You don't even have to use your name. Them can send a one-time password to the phone, enter it there. Now this is the report part. Tap that category thing and choose road issue. Tap issue and choose pothole day. Enter in the description, you just drop in a big pothole on Rendezvous Hill, and tap next. Tap get current location so them know exactly where it happened. Now take a picture and let them see how big this pothole is and hit submit. You see, if an old girl like me could get this do, then anybody could do it.
I like it simple for true.
Yes.
Yo, that was fast and easy, yeah? Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Alright, you have a good day.
You have
See
a good day too.
Bye-bye. Alright, bye. See you. Okay.
Ask Pearly, ask Pearly, ask Pearly. Tell Pearly, tell Pearly, tell Pearly.
We will launch the app formally in a little while. Follow me with the jingle, please.
Bridging the gap of generations through wisdom and practical application, connecting people with resources while preserving cultural heritage. Here to help our community. Let us utilize Pearly to share what's going on. Tell Pearly to report a problem. Tell Pearly information to pass on. Tell Pearly for technical solutions. Ask Pearly. Ask Pearly. Ask Pearly. Ask Pearly. Tell Pearly. Tell Pearly. Tell Pearly.
Thank you. No, Prime Minister has arrived. Prime Minister, should I do like you do to other people? Prime Minister, you need to come to the front. You can't sit at the back of the room. Fair. All right. Now, this app, its development is something that makes me proud, but not just for the fact that it will enhance the delivery, the reporting and delivery of government services, but because of who put it together. Ramon, would you stand and your colleagues stand with you? Ramon is the primary developer, but you see the young people with him? When they made the presentation, it was nearly 24 young people from community college and around. They're the ones that put together Pearly. Give them a hand. Thank you. So I'll give Ramon a chance now to just come and say a little bit about Pearly, just a few minutes. And then we'll return to the normal scheduled program, as CBC would say.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Prime Minister. Well, we want to thank the PMO and the entire team for putting the trust in us. We're a local Barbadian tech company, and this is a project that obviously is close to our hearts as well, because as citizens, we do see the same issues that you see every day, and sometimes you don't know which department responsible for what, right? And we're now about to enter the hurricane season, and hopefully we don't have any challenges. But especially in scenarios like that, we see the need to be able to get information to the right persons. And what I've seen even behind the scenes is the team at PMO, they're highly motivated to solve these problems. I mean, I didn't know this until I started work this project, and it was really admirable to see the team in the office actually actively going through the tickets and so on as they come in. But that was the first stage of the development process. And then we, under the direction of PM and team, we knew we needed to get it to be something that citizens can really interact with. And we went through some iterations, and we now have Pearly in the app stores. If you go and search in your Google Play Store or your iOS Apple Store, you're going to see Pearly. Just search for Pearly, and you're going to see Pearly. It's live, and you can send your reports. And I really want to give a big plug to the team. Of course, I'm the person you might see, but it's a lot of young people that are behind the scenes doing a lot of heavy lifting. And not only projects like these are providing jobs, but it's also allowing us to export our talent and our skill set. And that is something that is quickly come to fruition now, where we are having suitors with some of our technologies as far as US. So we want to be builders of our tech. Of course, we've been consuming a lot of tech, and we want to be builders of our own tech. We want to be controllers or guardians of our own data and our own information. When you work with us as a company, this is not a pitch, this is just fact. Our other local companies, you know where your data is. If you have an issue, you know where to find the people. Well, we're right there in Harbor Road, right? So we're happy to be able to deliver Pearly to the country, and we really thank you guys for giving us the feedback as well. I want to say this clearly. In how we build technology is iteration. There are iterations involved, right? And throughout the process, there's going to be refining of Pearly. And we, as a team, we only build great tech because of feedback from people like yourselves. So we're not the people who are going to say, oh, if something is broken, we want to know, right? If something doesn't work or you think that it can be done better, just like this entire Ideas Forum, you could say, you know what, guys, we would really appreciate if you give us this feature, all right? So Pearly is going to be a live project, and we're going to continue to iterate and make Pearly better. So thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Don't run away so fast. Just because this is Ideas Forum, you need to say something about the contract that you've just landed with our young Barbadian developers in the US. So that people understand that there are avenues. You come with an idea, you work on it,
we can do big things.
Yes, I know we sent a brief to, we wanted the PM today, so I hope I'm in good order to say this now. We've been, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been working quietly, doing a lot of R&D. We know that in Barbados we have the sick buildings problem, right? So that was something that was close to our hearts as well, and we quietly started to do some R&D here in Barbados on that project. And from the time we started, we started to see some real nuances in the data because we didn't know of any solution to predict mold growth in buildings, but we just know it's a problem that's affecting our country and productivity. And quickly we realized that it was also a global problem due to climate change. And we continue to do our R&D right in Fontebelle there, and with the help of, I have to plug them, Mark Hill and Export Barbados, they really laid the runway for us to try and to develop. And when we started, we had this ground moment, aha moment, when we realized that, and forgive me to get a little technical here, but usually mold, there are 2 main contributing factors to mold: moisture and temperature, right? And when we started to look at the data and we started to compare rooms in very similar conditions, we recognized that the readings were different and they were skewed. So the first thing we recognized was that the contents of the room, they actually contribute to moisture retention. So something we call the surface impact factor. So if you have a room with carpet and a lot of drips, it means that you're going to be holding a lot more moisture in that room. Your ceiling tiles, the porous ceiling tiles, also hold a lot of moisture. So we went a little further after that, and then we recognized there's something we call condensation events, right? Where there's rapid spikes in humidity, and that happens like around 5 p.m. every day. Guess what happens then? We all turn off our ACs, right? So what's happening? We're having a lot of moisture now in the rooms. So we started to plug that into our own algorithms to see what we come up with. And then we quickly started to see from the anecdotal data that we are able to start to predict the growth of mold on the specific conditions that we start to see. Now we quickly searched, there wasn't a lot of research in it, so we went further. We created a device that looked very much like a smoke detector. So as we iterated, we were able to, I can't give out everything here, because I know this is live. I still patent pending, right? So I said all to say, let me jump straight to the end. We just came back from South Carolina, and it was really a heartwarming trip because we in this side of the world, and PM always talks about punching us above our weight. But it's until you got the confidence, but until you go and recognize the red carpet as they roll out for us, I wasn't expecting it. The first we met Senator Tim Scott, who was one of the shortlists for President Trump's VP, and we did the pitch, the mayor and other key stakeholders, and they pretty much pretty much asked us what we needed to get started our operations in South Carolina. And we're happy to say that we have accepted the offer, and we are looking forward to, they're planning a launch sometime later in the year. Of course, we let them know we're from Barbados, and Barbados has to be represented in what we do. But Mark always tell me, and Jonathan, they always tell me, we don't be too sentimental in terms of doing business. We must do business first, make sure we secure it, and our team would obviously have the opportunity. Of course, we have to hire US. We're in the US, we're going to be creating jobs in the US, but there's a lot of collaboration that's going to be happening between South Carolina and Barbados, and we're, I'm calm now, but we're extremely proud to see what we have built is now going on the global stage to scale. And they literally told us, don't go to New York, don't go to San Jose in Silicon Valley. we want you guys to remain right here. So we're happy and happy for the opportunity as well. So,
Thank you, Ramon,
yeah.
and your young team. When PM talks about global citizens, Asian roots, that's what she's talking about. Alex, back over to you.
Yeah, and just before I continue, Roy, again, Ramon and the team, I really want to commend you because what you, in essence, have done, you've shown exactly what these idea forums, why they're so important. We've come with an idea, and now you've provided a platform for Barbadians across the island to not just see something and complain about it, which, we can tend to do, but now you can actively play a role in how we improve the society. So whether it be a road issue, whether you see garbage and you realize that, littering is a problem I've always heard in these idea forums, now you have an opportunity to play your part. Citizen engagement goes both ways, and now make a better society. So I want to encourage people, get involved. We all know the name Pearly, and now it has a new context in the 21st century. It's no longer somebody or old lady peeping through the window when you pass. It's now an app on your phone. So download Pearly and get active. So again, Ramon, I want to commend you for that. So you give him a round of applause. That deserves a clap. So I'd just like to move on now to our next speaker. We have a Jaden Padmore, who's going to share some ideas with us. Jaden.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Y'all can hear me? So, firstly, someone said about the road towards law school. Firstly, I go to school at law school myself, so I can tell you about the road. When the rainfall, the road was flooded. That's the honest truth. So, me personally, I don't catch the bus to have to walk up the school gap. But, when I see the children walking the school gap, their shoes are, literally soaked, and their socks are, smell bad, really and truly, because, the socks wet. Also, that road towards law school coming from Messiah Street needs paving badly because it's literally on ways that people have to drive on the other side of the road not to get their tires damaged. So that also creates a hazard because Bajans don't drive slow. That's a normal thing. Bajans don't know what's 60. So you're going on 60 on one side and the other boy coming from 100 on the other side. I want my tires, and so accidents are prone to happen. Additionally, my first point here tonight is the water issue. Last week or week before, we know that the rainfall for the whole week straight. But my water, personally, I speak from my perspective, was mobby water, literally mobby water. So my proposal is a 3-step filtration system that cleans the water that we can use for drinking or at least to wash our clothes because wet clothes and the mobby water don't mix. So I was lucky I wasn't doing exams during that week because literally I would have went to school with brown shirts and was going to school at large in a brown shirt. You understand? So this system is a 3-step one. So there's a sediment filtration to remove the dirt and all other grains like rocks. Secondly is the carbon filters to eliminate chlorine and other chemicals from any water on the roads or any other chemicals that goes into the reservoir. The active carbon system will help remove those other chemicals. And thirdly, the UV sterilization system, which will kill any additional bacteria that the 2 other filters have not done. So that would help us do more things when the rain is falling. So I know anybody that lives in this Small Hope area or Four Rose area knows that when the rainfall is literally dirty. And they know when the water turn off, God knows when it come back on, literally. So that's one thing we can do. Another thing is the unemployment in St. John, the youth. No, I've read that the unemployment rate is 7.1%, right? But St. John youth are quite unemployed, but they're quite skilled at the same time. So I'm 17, so my last exam is the 12th of June. Now, I'm good with speaking. I'm also good at having plans and giving implementations to my plans. There are other people that are good electricians and plumbers around the place, but they can't find employment for obvious reasons. So I'm proposing that we can do employment internships with youth. So this would be for your ministry, Mr. Griffith. So I guess we can do a job fair, basically, a vacation job fair or a seasonal job fair. Let's say the children, people, not children, because youth is 16 to 25. So we can have a job fair, let me say, when the community center is finished rebuilding, we can have a job fair there. We can also have a job fair at the schools as well. So like many children go on vacation, they can practice their skills because not everybody is going to go straight to university or BCC after fifth form. Some people look for work, some people go to other places in society. The other issue is transportation. As I said, I go to school at large. So it's either 3 buses for me. The Six Roads Connection bus for 7, the Sergeant Street bus for 7 that comes to town, so that comes out here around 7:30, 7:45, or the Grantley Adams bus that passes across around 7:45, 8 o'clock. The Six Roads Connection bus, okay. But for the Sergeant Street and the Grantley Adams buses, I think the buses that are sent for those routes are quite small, literally. And I mean both on mornings and evenings, because those are the most 2 populous routes from the large school. And we are sending tap buses when children are literally squeezing outside of doors, and that's not safe. It's literally not safe, especially for the Grantley Adams route, because that road that they travel on evenings and mornings is not what we would call a good road to travel. So I think we can do something better. Because you know what's traveling on that bumpy road from morning to evening, squeeze it in a school tiny bus, and you gotta carry school children from Commonmere, Lodge, and Grantley. Even primary schools have to catch that Grantley Adams bus. For the one from town now, children usually catch that bus because that's the second bus that leaves town. And when that bus comes out here, it's crammed. So the St. John children can't get school. So the remaining instances, I have to get school, let me say for 1 o'clock, for my 1 o'clock exam, and they're passing the road at 9 o'clock. I still see children waiting on the bus stop for the second bus, so the 9 o'clock bus, so safety driver can drop them down society and they walk up the hill, or the driver will drop them in school. And it's not like a little bit of children. There's a lot of children that have to catch that bus. So I think we can fix that issue because we are impacting our education here and impacting people's lives there. So these are issues that we need to come together as St. John people, and as our member of parliament, these are issues that should be addressed. So that's all I have to say for now. So, no comment? Hold on.
Get in the mic. First, let me say how proud I am that you're standing there and articulating the way how you are, just like the young lady. It's fantastic. What we will do, all of these suggestions are compiled. The ones for St. John will obviously come back to me in terms of how we're going to resolve the issues. But I want to thank you for putting your case tonight. This is what it's all about. And yes, I am aware of the bus issues. I have some youngsters as well who stopped by the branch office that are coming from down Martins Bay that are concerned as well. So we will try to sort the problem as soon as possible, and I thank you again for the submission. I really do.
My solution to that problem is, right, I'm not saying not to use the tap buses, but you know we have the older buses, right? So the buses I grew up with was the big Marco Polo and bus car buses. I pronouncing it right? So I was saying we can use those buses, especially on evenings, because a lot of children get drop school in the morning. Parents is drop school the children, but picking up is the issue. So we can use those Marco Polo or bus car buses on evenings instead of the tap buses, and use those for school and leave the tap buses for civilian use, but not civilian use, other use. That's my solution to that. Yeah, basically. So a dedicated school bus system, right, basically.
All noted.
Right.
Thank you, brother.
So for the water system, I know you're going to wonder about prices, right? So the filtration price is totally, the prices I researched up to come up to $100,000 for the pumping station that I get, and I think the pumping station I have is Golden Ridge. I don't know. But when you hear people talking, my solution is they hear Golden Ridge. So I don't know who I can forward that prices to for the materials. Hmm?
it doesn't, why not? And if it does, how can it be?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, please.
So what I'd like you to do is liaise with Mr. Morris, and we will make subject, of course, to your exam. We don't want people distracting yourself.
My exam is Friday. My last one is the 12th. Right.
After the 12th of June, when you finish all the exams,
Mm-hmm.
Roy, make sure for him to meet with the chaps at the Water Authority and ask Dr. Farrell, who is looking at the water academies, to also be present for that, because that's focusing on young people. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaden.
Right. So my last point, which is youth unemployment, right? Not to like criticize at all. We know how BRA lines are. We know how BRA. Let me tell you a story. I went for my license the 25th of June last year. I was at license authority at 7 o'clock. I get my license at 5:30. Right? So then now when I went, I think the next day they had a hurricane or they had some issue, that's why I didn't go. But then the next time I went to get the actual card and slate, I actually stood there from like 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So I was saying now, there are young people out there that are willing. So as I was telling Mr. Griffith, the job fair, we can get people to do seasonal work to help we push forward this load. Especially since a lot of young people don't want the license, a lot of people going to BRA. And we can even get young people as that did the Pearly app to up with I think we have a software that we can pay that bills online. I can't remember what it's called. Easy Pay. So we can update Easy Pay to make it convenient. So we always have solutions, and there are people out there willing to help us. So that's all I have to say.
Well said, Jaden. Before you go, I really want to again congratulate and commend you for taking the step to come up here. You've been well spoken, you've been brave in how you've delivered your thoughts and your ideas. What I would ask you, if you could have a word to the young people watching. You know, we're in St. John at the moment. We have a couple other parishes to come. But we want to hear from the young people on how we can create a better society. What would be your encouragement or your words of advice to young people? You know, you've saw an issue, and you've clearly researched this issue to the point that you're able now to tell us what steps we can use, how much it potentially may cost. What would be your words of encouragement to young people?
The first issue we have as young people is that we are shut down by old people. That's the first issue, right? So the first issue we have to do is just, in a nice way, push them aside and do what we have to do. Right. Literally. Because the first thing is hear young people ruin our arm early. The first thing is hear young people ruin our arm early, right? So what I think young people need to do is stop listening to the majority and just, if you have something to do, do it. Push aside the old people that's stopping you and saying your voice don't matter. Because before I come out here, I was told my voice don't matter, right? I still come. So we need to push aside that negative energy that we put towards young people, and then I think we get more young people coming out. Because a lot of these ideas really and truly got from my lessons class. So like, not all of them, but some of them, I go lessons classes with people and we discuss there, but we don't get a push out because we just get told well, people don't listen to young people. So they just...
Exactly. Correct.
Because my lessons teacher will tell you when they want Sundays get it. So... It's right. But we gotta start pushing on young people.
But what I want you to do is don't generalize.
But it's
because we just came here.
Right.
We put forward an idea on water filtration. You have a meeting post 12th June, correct?
Okay.
That's the point I'm making. So I don't want too often people don't try or don't push because they make assumptions about the results or about the treatment that they'll get. And even if that is the norm, the only way you make history is by breaking through. Nelson Mandela says it's only impossible until it is done. Okay? So keep that can-do attitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Jaden. Very well done. Very, very well done. So coming after Jaden, our next speaker we have is Chambi Se. Hope I've pronounced that correctly. Okay, excellent.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Prior to getting into my contribution, I really want to recognize the government for the unprecedented nature of this opportunity, because I know it's precedented in the sense that it has occurred at other parishes, but in the context of having so many cabinet members and so on actually come to the site, I think this is stellar. The first thing that I want to get into deals with a historical situation. And this is largely friendly fire. The Society Primary School was closed, according to my notes, 2013 to 2014. And it is now converted into good use. In my view, the one missing aspect has to do with documenting what previously stood at the site. We live in an era in which the collective memory pretty much evaporates very quickly. And right there in that village, it is possible that a 12-year-old, right, school closed in 2013, 2014, a 12-year-old today has not even any conversation about the existence of this school that was of tremendous significance. So, by way of solution, and I've raised this separately, but I'm reiterating it on a broader platform, I would like that there be a commemorative historical marker placed on the property that points to the particular historical significance of the school. It is said, I'm not a historian, but it is said that the school is the site of the first primary school or place that offered public education to persons of African descent on the island. So I think that is something that we need to weave into all the other good work that the government is doing with respect to instilling connections to the African continent. Beyond that, I think there's also an opportunity in the context of tourism and other intersecting activity that there could be historical markers that document other things in the parish. As part of the regathering activity, there was a treasure hunt over this past weekend, and there were locations that were of historical significance. Some were known than others, but there were no actual markers, which actually worked in favor of the treasure hunt. But there are also lots of things that are of minor awareness. So I think there's an opportunity here to document our post-independence legacy. And then the last thing on that is, it's not the best of examples because it's something that is practiced in the Confederate South of the United States, where there are markers that are identifiers of the Civil War. And these were very instrumental as well in the Trump installation of that aspect of the memory. So I think I've been clear on that part. The second thing that I would like to touch deals with transportation in a sort of a different sense. We know that historically all of our networks have been on a center-periphery sort of arrangement into Bridgetown. And we are in 2025 with not the same reality that existed in 1966. We have more vehicles on the road. We have a different level of interactivity. In a parish like St. John, where you have 72, I believe, communities, where there's a lot of intersection of families and so on, we have a situation in which it may be easier for me to get to Bridgetown than to get here from 10 minutes away. It's 10 minutes away in a vehicle, maybe significantly longer on a bicycle, on foot, etc. But it's also complicated now by less civility with traffic and other considerations. What I am, and I know that there's been efforts in this regard with respect to, for example, the Gall Hill 6 Roads connector, but I think as a larger proposition, not just on this island, in this parish, but particularly since I'm discussing this parish, that there be some sort of re-inventory, re-examination of connectivity, because I can see how this has also impacted the regathering activities. There are people that would want to be present at some activities, but it's just not practical to get across. And this is a large parish. But beyond the particularities of this parish, the idea is it should be easier to get traveling south to north, just as easy as you're going east to west. Now for one particular clear-cut example. Society is a community that has a unique situation. It has 3 levels of education. Most communities in Barbados do not have that. Primary, secondary, and tertiary. There's a church, and there are other broader institutions around. But the connectivity is very, very poor. And even the buses that are in the vicinity do not touch society. You have the Gall Hill collector. If I'm a pensioner, if I'm infirm, if I am a 14-year-old that has permission to go out on my own, but still you have a walk. You have distance. So what I'm saying is that the Oystons call a Savannah bus or the Gall Hill 6 Roads bus service society. It is, I timed it in a vehicle. It's maybe a mile, 1.2 miles. It takes between 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes for a bus to turn around. It takes a human being about 20 minutes to traverse that. So I think the burden should be placed on the bus. So I'd like to see a broader re-examination, not just of that, but even when, say, if a bus is going to pass at top of the hour, then maybe have that intersecting not be like 45 minutes later, but closer, at least on paper, to get that going. And then finally on that point is that bus fare is $3.50. It's $1.75 US. Of course, I have the memory of when it was $1. There are people in here who probably have a memory of when it was much cheaper. I think as a matter of public policy, we should be at a place where there is an option for transfers of service. If I take the bus on that connector and I get to 6 Roads, there should be some amount that the economists or the costers in the ministry have arrived at that would allow me to pay, if it's $5, that I can get on a bus from 6 Roads and connect down to Sky Mall. There are people who are paying $14 per day for public transportation that we all know has some defects. I'll just touch on the defect really quickly. As I said, it's friendly fire, but it's an obligation to speak about this. At night time, the bus becomes a 2-hour wait. I think, therefore, there needs to be some sensitization of the service provider. So if the burden on me is to wait 3 minutes, no bus should be leaving Bridgetown before the appointed time. This happens. Because then I've seen a Defense Force soldier who waited 4 hours. Should never happen. He leaves the barracks, he comes there with the bargain in mind that he's going to take the 8 o'clock bus. The bus has either left or it left in a small vehicle he couldn't get in. So therefore, his wait is 10 or 10:15. But this is a route that's not prioritized. So then essentially he's got to wait till midnight because everybody knows the one bus that is going to leave is the midnight bus. So a 2-hour wait is already very burdensome on people. Like clearly not everybody's going to want to go to work and then immediately head home. But this also affects the civic life and the participation of civic life of rural residents, because then you're thinking, well, if I have a job that starts at 8, if I don't get on that 6 o'clock bus, I can't, and if you just start playing roulette with the possibilities. So there's that. And then that touches into the other point, which is more touching on the idea of a social contract. I think rural Barbados is in a particular situation that is very distinct from urban Barbados. When I start configuring in my mind what the future could look like, I'm concerned about how we measure economic development, and I sort of still have this sense of there's going to be urban pressure leading to reactionary decisions that then treat with almost the development as a sort of invasive species for our experience, the quality of life, the less dense spaces, and so on. And we know that housing is an area in which this could become burdensome. What would be preferable would be to start having consensus like this, thinking out into the future. Because we have the issue of reduced birth rate, obviously small population. Somebody alluded earlier to people departing from the parish or having to work in places like Speightstown, which again also ties into the point about connectivity and cost. This is a very relatively pristine area. There are lots of benefits, but at times it can feel burdensome and that you're not getting the same social contract with the state as in other areas. It's not to say that it is neglected, but it is maybe not as well understood, because there's another dynamic, which is people tend to internalize and don't necessarily verbalize their frustrations, especially if it's cumulative. So those are the points.
Once again, as I've done for the entire night, Chambi, I want to thank you for your presentation. I've highlighted some important issues, specifically, the society primary school, which, again, I'm not from St. John, but, there's one of those things as a younger person, you'd understand the importance. And, we always would say, if you don't know your history, you don't know where you're going when you move forward.
Right.
So I'd like to really commend you for that, and I'm certain that at some point, once we have this information collected, you'll be able to understand where we're going in relation to that and some of the other issues and solutions that you shared. So,
one thing that I should have said on that is, we have expert, I think Sir Henry Fraser, for example, you have people that can weigh in on the precise history of it. I'm just touching on the global solution rather than the nitty-gritty of it.
Well noted, and I appreciate it once again. And again, we have the information, and the ideas forums are all about taking that information that we've had and being able to put that into action. So, once again, thank you so much.
Right. Any other questions? Or
well, not from me, but let's see.
I don't want to get feedback. I think it's very clear that people want interaction, and I'm encouraging the ministers and others here to fuel the interaction. On the issue of the bus routes, we talk about wanting to remove the north-south traffic of airplanes and of shipping routes, but we're not looking until with the level of vigor, and I thank you therefore for your comments and idea with respect to looking to see how best we can crisscross the country. AI can be good and it can be bad. And earlier this week you heard me say, or last week really, that there is need for proper governance systems to be put in place for it. But one of the early harvests potentially is for us to be able to load as much information as we can with respect to the routes that we have, the GIS, the geographical information systems that we have, and also the extent to which facilities are used and which activities are undertaken. And when we start to do that, then perhaps we can start to get an even more comprehensive approach, even beyond what you have said is really also a simple solution. Do you take the Oystins to College Savannah bus and carry it to Society one time? Or do you take the 6 roads to Gall Hill bus and carry it to Society one time? I think you're absolutely correct in highlighting that Society is unique in its historical importance as well. Most people don't realize that you could have remained in this country and gone from primary to tertiary education in the 19th century, in the 18th century. The problem, of course, was that it was not available to all, and it was limited in its access. And I definitely believe that some kind of historical plaque for those who are going around the country should go there, and we will follow up in the Ministry of Culture for that. But Ministry of Transport has an obligation, in my view, to be able to carry us to the next level and to be able to see what is the optimization of bus routes in this country that are not simply in and out of city. And that is how we grew up, because everything was forced to come back down to town. But the reality is that this party, which I lead especially, has been the party from the beginning of decentralization. And that is why when others allowed the clinics in St. Joseph and St. Andrew to fall by the wayside, we said, no, we need to make sure that wherever possible, people can have access to decentralized services. There are people who say that all magistrates' courts should be in town because all buses go to town. We say no, because there is merit in a magistrate being in a district, getting to know the families, getting to know the troublemakers, getting to know the good ones, getting to know everybody, because context is everything. So I really want to support the recommendation for us to work harder to be able to find it possible to facilitate cross-country movement in a better way than we have done before. And if we felt that it was a little too complex for our brains alone to achieve, the artificial intelligence, the AI, now allows us to be able to plug in all of the metrics, all of the data, and to begin to give us better solutions. And that is, I said, without prejudice, Rommel, to you asking, please, the Transport Board to have one of those 2 buses extended to Society, if not both, because quite frankly, one starts from Oystins and the other starts from 6 roads. And I also do believe, like you, that, for example, when St. Philip regathering comes around in July, the people from St. John may want to go down to St. Philip. You understand? And it will give more, especially since St. Philip believed that Calypso begin and end there, and it's crop over time. You understand? So people will want to go down. So let us get some of these small things to happen without prejudice to us working on a more comprehensive manner to optimizing the routes across the country. I also want to say to you that I've asked for a report. As you know, we are in the process of trying to transition to a mass transit authority from the Transport Board, which will involve, once we have the discussions with the unions, enfranchisement, and a whole host of other things, but really letting government focus on regulation and letting ordinary citizens be responsible for ownership of the buses and the operation of the buses. And if we have to provide financing, we're prepared to do what we have to do. But suffice it to say that these things, once they start to happen, will probably cause us to also step back and look at the dedicated school bus. Where's my brother from just now, from Lodge? The dedicated school bus system to which you referred just now. Because the government pays about, I think, William, it was about $5 million a year we pay about 5 million a year in school fee, in transport board fees for school children. And if we isolated that amount and go out to an RFP for persons to provide a school bus system for us, recognizing that the island can be divided into quadrants, and it may mean the transfer system to which you referred, and the transfers ought to be looked at in any event as a regulated fee to add on to the thing, rather than making a person pay 2 fares outright coming and going. So I thank you for these thoughts. As I said, that's why these ideas forum are here. The government continues to assert we are not omnipotent, we're not omniscient, we don't know everything, we're not all powerful. And therefore, by your sharing these things, we can take it and see what can work and how we can build on it. So thank you very much, my brother.
Okay, next we have a Linda Hinkson.
Good evening. Good evening to the Prime Minister and the other persons. Okay. I'm Miss Linda Hinkson, and I'm here to deliver arboriculture project, St. John Homestead project. And we know that it's always this talk about arboriculture, where we're going, where we want to be, how we're going to get there. And as the Caribbean move against 25% for 25% as was projected, and as a trained arboriculturist, I thought that it would be important for me to give back to Barbados, but I'm going to start with my parish first. So this project is focused on women, and it is to build community, building, and it's to promote food security and food availability. Persons say to me, while it was planning the project, it was having discussions, why women? And we have a lot of women who are interested in arboriculture, however, they do not understand the science of arboriculture. Being out in the field, a lot of persons have approached me and asked me to help them with projects, for example, poultry production, vegetable production, and after giving a significant input, they were able to improve their production. So this project is to get more persons involved, and from this, we can actually move towards a farmer's market probably once a month on Saturdays, so that persons can sell their produce, and from that, they'll be able to get extra income. So the project is going to be, well, the projection of the project is going to be divided into 2 parts. So you're going to have the training session where you understand the science, and then we're going to do the application where you actually put what was taught into place. But it's going to be a coaching kind of session, so you won't be left alone. So I'm planning to train. I'm starting with a small group, about 20. We do the training, and then from that, you get your package of what you want to do, and we work from there. That's me in a nutshell.
Well, Linda, I just have a few questions for you, because what you've said is obviously very impactful, in given the fact that we've highlighted agriculture being a very important aspect of the community in St. John. But I want to find out, just on a personal note, what has led you to the point where you feel empowered to, create a program for women in particular in agriculture?
Well, agriculture was always part of my life as a child. I can safely say that as a child going to Grantley Adams, I always had money through agriculture. From Shanrock days, my father used to work for Lloyd Allen, and I had a black belly sheep. I had the first giraffe pig, and like Mr. Allen used to always make sure he sent something for me. I had a red pole calf, so I could rescue buffalinos.
You had the money.
I understand Ramadan when I become older, but when I was a child and persons come to purchase my sheep, to me that was like Ramadan comes in May, then school time in July, so you had money to buy school clothes already. So it was really part of me. I went on to study agriculture at university. Now I'm doing my master's, and I plan to do it in Phil, so Agriculture is my love.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Linda. And just for those who may be interested in being a part of the program, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, I have to, this project was planned since September 2024, but I have to speak to my minister, and then we're going to materialize it of how we are going to go forward. But I said since today is the day to give out ideas, I'm just going to toss out the idea so that persons will be aware that something is about to happen.
Okay, thank you, Linda. You've tossed out the idea. I'm certain that people will catch it because it sounds like a wonderful opportunity. I think we have a minister who wants to just add something, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'm Mike Sutherland, Minister of Housing. And I serve in the capacity of 28 Thank you, Linda. My name is Dwight Sutherland. I'm Minister of Housing. I serve in 2018, thanks to the Prime Minister giving me the opportunity to serve as the Minister of Commerce and Small Business. And what we did back then, we recognized we had a dearth in small businesses in this country. And one of the things we started was the trust fund loan system where we offered $5,000 to small businesses, startup businesses, where they can come, leverage themselves, get the $5,000 and start the business. One of the areas was agriculture, and I found that we started, the majority of the businesses, that the startups were in agriculture. And I would want you to explore the option of utilizing the trust fund loan system for the women, so you can indeed leverage and you don't have to dig deep into your pocket, but you have the capacity. I think the interest rate, Prime Minister, is around, interest rate, probably around 4% or so, no? Roughly around 4%. And it is one of the things that most of the agricultural businesses you see around the country would have done. In addition to that, this project is so well received tonight because we seek, I'm not the Minister of Agriculture, but I'm from St. George, which is the land of agriculture. We call it the bread basket of Barbados. And I grew up with backyard farming, not just pigs and sheep, but we had produce and crop production in our backyard in a small area. And I'm just interested in finding out from you some more. I don't want you to give out the details of your project because I know that is your project and someone else may listen to you, Linda, and want to copy it. But how you intend to indeed empower these women? I like the idea, and I know the Prime Minister is probably, she's here wanting to probably congratulate you because women indeed need the empowering stimulus in this country. We need more women not only to get into farming, but only today we're looking at the gender bias that we came and found as a government, successive governments, where we need to empower more women to become leaders and to work as engineers. I worked in a company that had one female engineer for 15 years. And I am happy that you have targeted females. So I just want to hear from you some more on the project. It is well received by us, but give us a little more information and, with a view that we can support this project as a government.
To have females empowered in the project would not be a difficult one because we're going to move from an aspect of application of the science, because agriculture is a very heavy discipline, complex, math, chemistry, biology, and physics happening all at the same time. So I'm going to use the educational approach. Right, I'm going to use the educational approach. I'm going to let you understand the science, and from that, you're going to apply the science. So when you actually see things are happening and happening in the correct order, you feel the empowerment to do more. Because I had a friend back in the day, her grandfather leave pig pens, and it was just there, and I said to her, you can do a pig project. She said, but I don't know how to. I said, but you have me. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to hold your hand, and we're going to go through the process. I'm going to teach you along the way, and then you're going to apply the knowledge. And we did that, and she became a successful farmer. So it is about educating the person, make them become a critical thinker, make them want to do more, motivate themselves, want to move from one building block to the next building block. So if you start in a small scale and you're really willing, it's just the educational process to understand the science of farming. Because I have found that with most farmers, the downfall is, it's not about getting the funding, it's to understand the process of what you are doing. To be able to go out on mornings and identify things that are happening. For example, I say to my female farmers, if you came home and your piglets, you had a batch of piglets that gave birth earlier and they die, you can tell if it was born dead or if it died after birth. They say, Miss Nixon, how? I said, because if it was born and then it died, the lungs would have been inflated. You cut it open, you put it in water, it rises to the top. That's a simple analogy of how you will find that out. So when you give people the education, it empowers them to do more. They want to do more and more and more and more.
Very good. Just wanted to add as well to what Dwight was saying is you just solidify the old adage that it's obviously better to teach a man to fish rather than to give a man a fish. And I think that's exactly what you'd be doing with your program to encourage people to get into agriculture and teach them how to do agriculture and why they're doing what they're doing. And it also reminded me of a parish speaks that we had some time ago. I don't know if you remember, Prime Minister, but a gentleman came up and said, you know, that he grew tomatoes and he did very, very, very well with the tomatoes. And he encouraged more people to get into agriculture. And I think that is something that we miss all the time, that how important and how lucrative agriculture can be. And even I remember Prime Minister Arthur encouraging people to get back to backyard, to growing things in their backyard. Even, not even to grow it for sale, but even to grow for yourself, for your own consumption. Because when you grow it for yourself, you know what chemicals, if any, are there. You know what is coming in, and therefore you know by extension what you'll be consuming. So I think it's a fantastic program, and I wish you all the best, and I'm sure that Minister Griffith will be able to encourage and help with respect to the program. Very good, thank you.
Good night, Linda. Yes, I know for years your passion as it relates to agriculture. And as Senior Minister would have just mentioned, I think you're fortunate, you and your ladies, because a couple of years ago, a project was started at Wakefield, Project Phoenix. And I have, every morning I traverse the area to come to work, and I'm pleased about the amount of work that those youngsters who are at Wakefield are putting into agriculture. There was an issue where there was no water. They had a conversation with the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister offered a solution, and now all of the farmers at Wakefield, Project Phoenix, there's a level of water that is coming from a well in the same vicinity. So when you speak about using the technology with your ladies, you have an opportunity now to be practical in terms of using maybe an acre or 2 acres of land at Wakefield through Project Phoenix to do your farming. So we will have the conversation, and we will try to see. The Ministry of Agriculture, there's an extension officer that is attached to that particular group, and we will see how best we can get your ladies involved, the physical side of it.
Hi, good night, Linda. I am very excited to hear about your project, and I will tell you why. At present, the government is working with the Chinese, and we are constructing an agricultural institute down in St. Lucie. And it will offer agricultural training in everything that you could want to do, including short courses. And listening to you, it sounds to me like we might need to talk to you about whether you could be one of the people helping us with some training. Secondly, what we would want to do is be able to dialogue as to whether we can work with people like yourself who want to do something in your area and give you support, access to some of the resources we have there, access to some of the courses that we have there that can help empower and disperse agricultural training right across the country. So if you don't mind, I would like to get your contact information, and if there is some collaboration that would be helpful. The Hope Agricultural Station, we are aiming to have it ready by the end of the year. And we want to be able to help ordinary Barbadians to get involved in agriculture. We're also doing smart and technology associated with agriculture. All the latest techniques are going to be there. So we look forward to some form of collaboration with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'd like to move on to the next speaker, Jefferson Trotman.
Good night. Protocols are established. First, Madam Prime Minister, I can put politics aside tonight, but you made me some promises last year that I'm still looking for, but tonight is about St. John. But I want to start on the national level. I work in the health sector, the QEH, and anybody knows health knows that 75–80% of the monies goes into salaries. And today while I was on duty, I saw some people attending a clinic, and it touched me. I think the time is now to have a discussion with some insurance companies to look at health and education, where we could formalize a plan, some sort of insurance for all residents and citizens of Barbados, so that when you come to the hospital or you go to a polyclinic, you're given a card, and the insurance company will then pay for this visit. I don't know if that's something that we could really sit down as a government, as a people, and look at and try to design to take the burden off of government, so that, like I said, all citizens and residents of Barbados will be given an insurance card, and that would pay for your visit at the polyclinic, QEH, health, education, UE, whatever. St. John, sports, education. I currently coach basketball. I'm getting ready to help out with the football program because it's dying. And what I've found with the young people is that they're getting a lot of challenges with school and sport. They're not balancing both. And that is a challenge. I'm in the process of designing a lessons program, and I think we need to merge the two, sports and education. Try to push in the youngsters that education is very important. When I was growing up, my mother didn't have any money to send me lessons. And at this age, I would have loved to go on to lessons and go on with my education and be further in life, but it is what it is today. So for me, I would like to see where we could have a structured sporting program where you have people engaging in sports but still maintaining lessons, maths, English, and a foreign language. And we will monitor it through a grade point system, a grade point average system. You have to keep up your grades to be a part of the program. So if we say you're not doing well in school, then the sport stop for now, and we push you in the education aspect of it. Then you come back into the sporting program. Victor Houston went to school at the Garrison Secondary. He's a coach overseas. We need to tap into the diaspora where we could push people overseas. We need to have conversations with universities and colleges overseas and set up programs. You know, we send persons overseas, they send people here so that we could be exposed. I remember playing in Puerto Rico. We had a player, Jeremy Gill, play for Barbados. People came up to him and wanted to know what college he was at. He was that good. We have the talent on island, but we need to expand. We need to go further. I find that we have the youth that are very talented, but after that, everything just stops. We're not going on. We're not progressing. My next contribution is the at-risk youth in St. John, merely young men. We have the skills training program where we educate these youngsters how to drive tractors, operate bobcats, etc. And I think it's time we need to engage the Canadians, the Americans, the English in a farm labor program where we could, send these youngsters into Canada, into the UK, into America to work on the farms. So when you come out to school and you're not sound in your education, but we could design a program, a farm labor program, where these youngsters could go overseas, drive the tractor, the bobcat, the excavators, or even work on the farms. I think that's something that I would like to see. I mentioned it to Minister Griffith. That is something I would like to discuss with him and see how best we could get the young people in a program, a structured program, sending them overseas, bringing them back, letting them work in community with some other young people, giving back to society, and that type of stuff. But back now to sports, I want to say this to the St. John people. I'm very disappointed that a lot of you are not here tonight to speak your truth and to get across your message. I am extremely disappointed in the residents of St. John for not turning out. You understand? It hurts me deeply when I look in the crowd. I don't see a lot of St. John people, and I'm hurt by that. You understand? This was the perfect opportunity, I think, to come and say something and defend yourself and get your ideas and get going for the parish of St. John. There's so much I would like to touch on. I would like to touch on farming. I'm a small farmer, but time is limited. So, like rural development. I remember rural development was an area where we could have had funding, where farmers could go get funding, access funding. That is now closed. What's happening with that? So these are things people, like in society, projects and programs, we need funding. The gentleman that spoke about the breadfruit, he said he's a small businessman, but there are not that many businesses in St. John that you could go to and get sponsors. And when you work in community, there's not a lot of funding. I try to get some funding from Charles for the netball program. We got some, but it's just not enough. Like I said, I want to start a comprehensive lessons program that calls for funding. Where do we access that money? How do we get that money? It's right to say work in community, do this stuff, do this, do that. But where the money is coming from? You can't. Back then, you could have given a child a sponsor worksheet and said, go and raise some funds. No, people see that as begging. We've gone away from the traditional Barbados. But I mean, the fastest way to raise money is through sponsor walks, through fundraising activities. But again, we have a lot of farmers in St. John, but they need the money. Where is that money going to come from? There's so much red tape. I remember a guy came to me, Fund Access. He wanted to get some money from Fund Access, but they wanted him to go and do a course. He might tell me he could hardly read and write. Of course, he could go and sit down here for 6 weeks. You understand? And he had a good idea. So I always had this in mind. We have a Ministry of Finance. We have a lot of economists and financial people in the Ministry of Finance. We need to structure a program where people that are not as educated as the others could access funding, and the project could be managed through the Ministry of Finance. Have the accountants, have everybody doing the books for the businesses, and manage that aspect of the business for the young people. But like I said, there's a lot that I would like to get into, but time limited, and I'm sure others would like to speak, so that's it from me.
All right, don't move, Jeff. Let me just respond to some of the things that you mentioned, and I know your passion in relation to this. One of the things that Jeff forgot to mention is that he's a product of basketball at the court to the extent where he represented Barbados on the basketball team. We're going to work together in terms of fleshing out, yes, and he's on the wall that we celebrated yesterday. We're going to work together in terms of sports. I started St. John Development Council to be the umbrella body for the sports that are happening here at Gall. In terms of the lessons that you're talking about, yes, we have one or two youngsters, teachers who are prepared to give back. As soon as the community center is fixed and we're ready to go, then we will have that program in place. So I agree with you that we need to build out the sports. St. John Sonics is basically on its deathbed, and we need to get the football up and running again. Evans, his program is up and running, but I'll work with you in terms of triggering a new look in terms of what is happening with sports at Gall Hill?
Griff, the other thing that I want to mention, I heard you said it last night. I mean, I said it would put politics aside, but that is difficult. Powers. I mean, Nobby Eswick comes to mind. They got so many people that Powers could be named after that made valiant contributions in St. John. You understand? The gentleman mentioned society. St. John School is now closed. We had about 6 schools in St. John. I now have to traverse to St. George to take my daughter to school in St. George. The community center you promised last year, that was closed for so long. And I mean, is harming and hurting this constituency because that a lot of young people used to access the center. The pavilion is too small for everybody to use. The other thing you earmarked, the zone you said is for vending. I don't think it's a good idea. I think the clinic is a good idea for the vending, for roads and society, but I think the zone should be earmarked for a gym. You know, it's close to the hardcourt, it's close to the playing field. We don't have a gym in St. John. We need a gym. You understand? So if you could earmark the zone for a gym, I would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there is a gym at the David Thompson.
Too small, Griff. Too small, Griff.
But it is a gym.
Yeah, but
I had a tour of the facility last month. There's some work to be done on the treadmills, and then it will be ready for public consumption. Until we can find the facilities to get another one, I think that would be right now enough to suffice for persons who want to work out.
But I got people in the diaspora that are willing to donate stuff, people that coming back home, people in the diaspora that are willing to send back equipment so we could get a gym. The other thing, Griff, is that I said this last year, we need to attach people to community. We have a lot of people from the sports council and the schools attached to the schools. But when the school closes, then what happens? You have a lot of young people in community just running around, no program, no. So we need, but everybody says to give back, but the demands and the constraints of life has changed significantly. So whereby a man would come home and be able to come and help a youngster or two, he's now at work doing overtime to feed his household. So we need people, like me. I work at the hospital. We could design a program and put me in Gall Hill to work and pay me the same salary so that I could work in Gall Hill. You understand? But I would like that. I would just work. And I got people to you know, the summer camp program. I think the summer national program is a very good idea. But how it was managed, I don't like it. You understand? I think that we going away from education. We need to hammer home that young people need to be educated to rival the overseas, the regional and international market. Young people need solid and sound education. You understand? And we cannot go away from that. We cannot, as Barbadians, that is what this society, that is what we were built on, being educated and going strength to strength with anybody outside of this country.
Just to address a couple of the things, Minister of Sports, 2 primary schools in St. John. I want the winner of the Herman Griffith to come from St. John. I have asked Cultural to attach one of their players to both primary schools in relation to developing cricket. Now, I agree with you in terms of the coaching. I have asked Sports Council to look at how we treat to the coaches in the school. Because when you go into the school as a coach from the Sports Council, you're spending like an hour in the school. 15 minutes for the youngsters to come out, another 15 minutes to change. It is not enough time. So I've asked them to restructure and to look at doing the training in the schools now after school, immediately after school, where you can get in maybe 2.5 solid hours of coaching. Because it makes no sense when you go to a school and you're coaching for like half an hour. You can't get in the discipline in half an hour. There's drills, there's warm-up time, it doesn't work. The director from the Sports Council is here, and I'm going to ask him to say a few words in terms of what we're doing.
Good evening, Prime Minister. Good evening to everyone. As far as the program for the community is concerned, that program will be rolled out in its entirety from September. We are currently working on it. We are aware that the 1 or 2 hours spent in the school is just not enough. However, as you can see here at Gall, one of the reasons why the government decided to build the mini stadium is to facilitate sports after normal hours, late into the night. I know Gall is one of the facilities that is used, the courts especially. So we are working to get all the others up to scratch. And I can assure you that our coaches will be out in full force from September this year to address the whole issues of sports in the communities.
Well, I hope that when they come to community, that they come to community willing to work, willing to understand the community. That's the next step. You know, you just come, like I have persons in my netball program, and you have, man, tell she don't come back. But when I tell a young person don't come back, it hurts me. First thing, I have to understand what's going on in that household. I need to understand what's going on with that young lady before I just send her away. You understand? So we need to have conversation with these young people. I have to go and check the statistics on the amount of young persons that under 18 that's going through depression. You understand? And it's significant. And why? You know, we have to be caretakers for these young people. They are the future. And when I see young girls come into to netball, I mean, even the whole country, how they dress, how they carry themselves, these are young women. And sports in Barbados is in a bad, bad state. You understand? It's no fault of I think, the government. I think it's the society on the whole. It's how we approach things as a country. And the thought process needs to change. And again, it starts with education. Once you're educated to a certain level, then you have a certain level of understanding, then a certain level of carrying yourself, and it builds and it builds and it builds. So we need proper people in society, and we don't need to get a coach because he is somebody's friend. We need people that actually care about people and investing in the young persons of this country. You understand? The time has come where we can't just put anybody around these young people.
Jeff, I can assure you that our coaches have been mandated to look at the social component of their coaching as well. And I mean, it's no secret where the Sports Council is going in the near future. And I can tell you that it will not be business as usual at the new entity. There's going to be a major shake-up at the council as far as how we treat our young sports people. I can assure you of that.
And then anyone could address the at-risk youth in terms of the farm labor program, how we could get the farm labor program going again. Yeah, but sports, like I said, sports, like I played basketball, and Griff, you mentioned that you have a committee and stuff. But for me, I think that the committee needed to be a bit diverse. A lot of the people, I mean, kudos to the regathering committee. They did a fantastic job, but I think more could have been done. I think more people from St. John could have been included on the committee. And, you know, it's time that we put this BD politics aside when we're looking at community. I here tonight, I'm a DLP supporter, the world knows that, but I am here to represent St. John, and it has nothing to do with being political at this stage. I want the best for my parish. You understand? And that's why I'm here. So I know that I can get criticisms for being here, but I don't care. I at the point where I'm extremely frustrated because it seems like there's no help coming. You understand? I had at one time 38 young ladies on the court. Now I've gone down to 12 because they could not handle all. You understand? And the footballers, I wanted to organize the football and help Evans, but a lot of the men, I traveled, and when they came back, a lot of the youngsters that I wanted on the team had already left. But in terms of sports, Griff, I think that I need you to put more, and I need the government to put more into sports.
And Jeff, your concerns, I can say it will not be confined to St. John.
Why won't start in St. John?
Our shortcoming, Jeff.
Why won't start in St. John?
Jeff, our shortcoming probably hinges on the fact that we don't really tell the whole of Barbados the true story about sports. And why I say not St. John, currently we are constructing a 400-meter track at the gymnasium. Currently we are constructing a badminton and squash volleyball court. We are also constructing a netball facility with what used to be the netball stadium, which should now be a multi-purpose facility for netball, volleyball, and basketball. So I'm saying there are a lot of things that are happening. We are on the verge of starting the construction for 5 or 6 dedicated football fields. One of the 400-meter tracks is to be constructed in St. John. So there's a lot happening. So it can't be confined to St. John. But I'm telling you that I have a minister of sport, my minister, who makes my life miserable. And he doesn't concentrate on St. John only. He calls me about every single parish in St. John. And he sends me messages at 1 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. Before him, there was only one person who used to do that. That's the Prime Minister. So I'm hoping that the other ministers would catch on. There's a lot happening, Jeff, and I'm telling you that when you come back here next year, I'm telling you, unless you don't have a good conscience, you'll be seeing a lot of complimentary things about sports in Barbados.
Just let me follow up, Jeff, in relation to what you're talking about. I can't say that you have 4 cricket fields in Barbados with a practice facility like that. But you talk about spending money. Government, first government, probably the only government in the Caribbean that gave...
Leave politics, Grace.
I'm dealing with... You asked about this spend, brother. I'm going to give you some facts about this spend. This is dealing with the politics. $25,000 to every national federation on island for developmental purposes. Then we turn around and we give $5,000 to clubs. It can't be politics. We gave everybody, right? When you look at the gym that we have at the bottom here, that is being spread across the country for persons who can't maybe afford a gym, but they're using their body weight to get healthy. We're doing that. We took road tennis to a level where over 32 countries were watching the finals. I'm in the process of meeting all of the national federations because we're about to develop a sports app that all of us could sit down home and see what is happening in relation to sports in Barbados on a particular night. I went to bodybuilding last month or early this month, and I was concerned that we had absolutely no tourists in the audience. International event, over 100 countries were carrying the feed. And we're developing an app now that will allow, similar to if you're watching basketball, that you can go on and see what's happening in the NBA, NFL. We're developing a sports app that we're going to put across the country that every single person could sit down home and say, well, okay, today is Sunday, I'm going to go to the gymnasium and watch the finals. We have negotiated with CBC, and for the first time you're seeing local finals are being carried on CBC. Your basketball, the finals were coming on CBC. So there's a lot that is happening in sports, and you will see it as it unfolds because we are not finished yet. There's a whole range of things that we need to do. I have asked Jamal Smith, who is now with Cricket West Indies, to do a program to develop young cricket coaches because we had a problem where a cricket match is playing from here and the youngsters are looking in the pavilion to the coach to see what to do. And I said, look, there's a need for us to develop a cricket captain program. And Jamal, my last conversation, he said that Cricket West Indies heard about it and they're putting something in place similar. We have a cricket academy at the Old Sports Council. 5 bowling nets, 2 bowling machines to develop cricket. So government is doing more than ever in terms of the cricket project on this island. So when I hear you say that, I smile because maybe what I need to do is to get my PR team to kick up what we're doing a little more so that people will be fully aware of what government is injecting into sports on island. Because, and I'm going to do a tour because I saw a message recently that said we're not putting money similar to you in sports. And you heard the director, netball stadium. We're doing additionally 2 400 tracks, one in the north, one in the east. We're putting together some dedicated football fields because we believe that football is one of those areas that we can get our young people to travel. So hence we're looking to do some dedicated football fields because if we come to culture and we play the Prime Minister's Cup here. Then the next day you're going to hear culture saying, but you have a lot of spikes on the track. And we're developing them. There's a field at MTW that is just loitering. That is one that is earmarked for the dedicated football field. And you're going to see that things are going to go. If you believe that the Prime Minister's Cup was big, then this year you're going to see something that is enormous in terms of us tweaking and making sure that we have product that is fit for purpose, absolutely fit for purpose. A lot of the old practices that you're seeing, we're pivoting away from them. I was in Trinidad to Carifta, and they asked me to come and speak to the swim team, and I walk outside and I'm like, where's our national team? I can't see it. They said, it's right there. Our national team, our national swim team was in green, and I can understand it because we're not Guyana. So I'm saying there's a lot of work that we need to do in terms of the federations of Arts and Sports Council to put training in place, because government can't do it all. And if there's a situation where the national federations can bring teams to Barbados to play at our gymnasium, then we are dealing with sports tourism. We're building out the plant there in a significant way. Come September, we're taking up the floor to put in a new flooring because it is bad. We're going to bring a cover to cover it so that when additional shows are happening at the gymnasium, they don't impact the floor of what is there. So this sports project in Barbados is alive and moving in the right direction. All of us are heading north.
Yeah, the other thing, Griff, sports. When you watch cricket, you follow cricket on island on weekends, you see the spectatorship is down. I think sports need to move to a parish level. You understand? Where you break down St. Lucie, break down the bigger parishes. You understand? You have a youth development program, a junior program, a senior program, and a master's program. So you will always have a feeder, because sports in Barbados, only the older clubs that still, function are successful. But these young clubs coming in and quickly, they're just falling on the wayside. Then you have players that say leave St. John Culture, because St. John Culture said, look, we got to practice 4 days a week in order to make the team. So Yorkshire don't practice, so they go down Yorkshire and they play in Yorkshire. So what I'm saying is that we got to look at putting sports at a parish level. And then obviously you have to live in the parish, or you have to be in the parish for 5 years. Men got girlfriends, wives, and don't live together, etc. So I think, because when you drive around Barbados, so I follow St. John Culture around Barbados, so right now Orange Hill, a couple of Saturdays ago, when he got on there, there wasn't a lot of people. So if we could get sports at the parish level, I feel it would be easier to fund the discipline, because if you got cricket, basketball, and all the sports under the same parish, so that means that you got committees, and then you got a main committee and subcommittees, then funding is easy and accessible to all.
All right. Two things quickly. You mentioned community. In the next couple of weeks, there will be a Block T20 competition that's being coordinated by Courtney Brown that is happening across the island. So this is an attempt to do a couple of things. One, unearth new talent, and two, maybe, if possible at this time, to breathe some new life into the BCL, because we know that it is a dying product. The Block T20 is to get individuals from off the blocks involved, 1 or 2 youngsters who got the skill sets involved. But the important part of it is to have mentors now come and speak to the youngsters in terms of not only cricket, but life. How they treat to moving in a totally different way. It's a structured activity that we're running across the island, the block. Every single parish will be involved in the process. The last thing I want to speak to you about, you talk about the unstructured group. We have an initiative at the ministry called the Block Committee, the Block Transformation Unit. And I would have brought them to St. John as well to speak to a number of blocks in the parish of St. John. They're working island-wide. And several youngsters from on the blocks in St. John are now at SJPI, BCC, or Vocational Training Board doing vocational work. And I'm saying this to you to say that as long as there's a need in terms of youngsters who are deemed to be at risk or on the blocks, there are facilities in place. Every single thing that you can think about in terms of young people on this island, not because I am, but the Ministry of Youth and Sports are taking care of all of that. I'll finish now. We had the event here yesterday, and you saw two young individuals, one male, one female, who were emceeing the program. And I felt there was a need for us to move away from having the old faces that you see emceeing programs across this country. And we started a youth MC program. And I'm asking all here who would have events to use our young MCs who were trained, and you would have seen them deliver yesterday at a maximum level. So we are doing what is necessary in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and by extension government, to take care of the issues that you have identified.
But the T20 idea, I don't think T20 cricket is good, but to capture the at-risk youth in St. John, I don't think T20 will work. I think football will more capture the at-risk. I think the cricket in St. John is for all demographic in St. John, but the football, I think you should bring a football.
That's why we have both going.
Okay.
And we'll continue with that. And I'm a little thing that has taken us as long to get the dedicated football fields that I've asked for, but I'm told that it's on its way, and we want to get it so that we can get the best out of our youngsters. One of the problems that we face is really this: phone and alternative forms of media. And therefore, the kind of audiences and followership that you would have had in communities before, people have other options. And people are doing their own thing, and that dilutes, not that they don't have an interest, but they tend not to come out. And I know, because you would have known, that I also ran a football tournament, and that's one of the things that we fought up against, the declining numbers of persons coming out. And you have to hype really significantly to get the kind of turnout. We've been lucky with the Prime Minister's Cup, and we'll continue with that, and we think we've made good progress. And I expect that within 2 or 3 weeks we'll be launching the one for 2025. As it relates to the issue of farming, and farm labor programs are not necessarily going to be as easy, but we don't want them to be easy. Barbados needs to see itself as a net exporter of food. And if that is to happen, then it means that more and more people can get involved in agriculture. That's one of the reasons we're trying out the project this year with the freight farms. I think the ads went out for one of the ones that had gone up for the freight farms, and then for the broiler, for the tunnels, for the chicken, poultry raising. And we've announced that, look, we will help finance it for you. And that basically we're looking first for the first 20, and then once we get that, we will keep going and going and going. Because at the end of the day, we're going to have to be able to develop more agro-processing, which is a way of also trying to reduce the cost of food to locals, because if we're producing enough at scale and exporting what we have, and then we can hopefully keep the local prices down as well. So that is why, is it Linda, the lady's name who spoke earlier?
Yes.
I didn't want to monopolize speaking after every speaker, but I truly am happy to hear the project that you have and want to encourage the ministers to work with you. Nobody owes us a living in this country. And we're going to have to be entrepreneurial, and we're going to have to be able to develop the skills. And I'm glad that you raised the point about persons being asked. There are many different ways to be able to tutor people. And it doesn't have to be only in a room with paper and pen. If you show a man, for example, on a video how to do something, and you give him the chance to go and let him come and do it by example, then he has learned how to do something without necessarily having to go through the larger hurdle of becoming literate or numerate in order to be able to learn those skills. So we've got to meet people where they are. I've heard you loud and clear, and believe you me, we will go back to see what we can do to bridge the gap. Yes, there's the trust loan program, but in some instances, small farmers going into agriculture may need a little more. And then there's the issue of the offtake agreements, and that's why I talked about agro-processing. Because if I can give you an offtake agreement that I will take X amount of what you're growing in terms of watermelons, or Y amount in terms of what you're growing in terms of cantaloupe or pumpkins or whatever, then it begins to give people opportunity, while at the same time they're assured of some cash flow, we're assured of sources, and then we can start to look at the export market. Why am I saying so? Netherlands, which is smaller than Suriname, The Netherlands is the second largest exporter of food globally, but it doesn't have the land space or the capacity of other large countries globally, but it has perfected the art using both the technology and the capital and the workers to be able to get what is done. I believe that Barbados' geographical position gives us a special advantage with respect to the exporting of foods, both what we grow here locally and what we can import and process to also aggregate with what, or to add with what we grow here locally. And to that extent, that is where I want to see us go. Food and water are clearly going to be in increasing demand. One of the problems that the world is going to have is that this degradation of soils is not giving us, therefore, the type of yield that we used to get before. We've got to overcome that. Another problem that we have is access to water, and we're working to deal with that. We have a water study being done. I think the company out of Canada is Aquanti. That is Aquanti, correct? No, Aquanti. That is growing, that is working with us to be able to refine all of our water sources so that we can do a better job with respect to ensuring that we have access to these things. But for the small farmers, I heard you loud and clear, there may be a need for us to better identify some of the initial financing and working capital needs. The Agricultural Development Fund is there, but when I look at it, it seems as though it's catering mainly to the larger farmers rather than the smaller ones, and we may have to find a product that is defined on that. As you know, we brought back down the rates for water to be able to also help with the farmers again. So let us see where we can go, but thank you for raising those issues.
The one final thing, you mentioned poultry. I think the poultry industry in Barbados is pretty stable. Pork is an issue.
You all get back self-sufficient in pork. We used to be, and we need to get back there.
Yeah, pork. So my thing is, I raised it at the meeting, but Roberts, I know Roberts have feed, and I wanted to find out if the government give them concessions on the raw materials they bring on island, and if so, if they could get concessions so the feed price could go down, or if they could get the VAT reduced because the feed bill killing me as a pork farmer.
Yeah. So the issue is a little more complex than just that, and I think that you would see that that's why the government also encouraged for more competition in the market as well. But I hear you, and trust me, there are some other issues, as I understand it, that also have to be done. I'm sorry that the Minister of Agriculture couldn't be here tonight, but we are directly addressing the issue of how to become self-sufficient in pork again, and competitiveness is going to be at the core of the BERT 3 program, and therefore if it's at the core of that program, we've got to look in every sector to see how we can become more competitive in order to be able to take our claim in the market. But part of it is going to be also improving the quality of animal. You know that, I know that, and there's some things that we have to do there that we have not done in the last few years to put us back at the top. Okay? Thank you, Jefferson. And I also heard your plea for community-based coaches rather than having people whose passion is in sports working in areas that they are not as passionate about. Thank you.
And Griff, I want your court repair.
I'm glad you see that we can live together as B's and D's.
In this forum.
Thank you very much, Jefferson. Thank you very much, Jefferson. And Jefferson is actually our last speaker, so our way to close out. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Those who shared, those who listened, those who participated online. These idea forums, as we said, are your opportunity to share your ideas, your solutions, and to really think on how we can improve not just the parish, but wider Barbados. So again, thank you for coming out. Next month, we head to the parish of St. George for We Gathering. I encourage you to partake in We Gathering as well, and look out for the dates for the idea forums. And before I forget as well, the Pearly app that we announced, be on the look for it. And again, download it, participate, and be an active citizen. So everyone have a blessed night, and thank you for being here again. Thanks.